Right, well, I'm hoping I've sorted out my mic a bit better and that you can hear what I'm saying, even if I pause badly, which I know I do. Sorry. I am. I've got three things I'm covering at the moment: 3D prep, bases, wings, and creepy crawlies. But there's other things that I need to sort out. So I'm just doing the basic work at the moment. I figured it might be useful to anyone who's interested in 3D prep, any maker or crafter who does FDM or who deals with resin. Again, this isn't me trying to tell you how to do it. This is what I do. You could do something entirely different. First up, bases. I have a a client wants a 50mm base. Last time I ended up opening where are we? Some bases that were okay. I took, I think, a 60mm base. Basic bases like this and printed it like this. The problem is, if you print it like this side is lovely, and this side, which is the bit you see, is not. The real problem with that is the rim. Cura and FDM printing in general doesn't seem to do nice smooth edges under here. What it does is nice smooth edges on the top. So this was gorgeous, pointlessly, and this was not. So I have a different idea now. What I ended up doing is did I put them in here? 40mm. Have I got around? I don't think I've done it. There we go. So I took a basic cone, chopped it down, took a chunk out the middle, extruded an image down. I've extruded the Warhammer image down. I'm hoping that's pretty reasonable. I certainly like it. The war figure image, I should say. Did I say Warhammer? Yeah, I probably did. They're not meant to be easy to confuse, but it is accidentally easy to confuse. The whole point is that war figure encompasses everything, not just that particular kind of maker or model. But there you go. So the other thing I found is on my printer, because it wobbles slightly side to side, which I've said before, at the moment I don't know how to fix that. What I've done is I tend to put things along this line, but things near the front do better. So put it somewhere near the front. Now, it's not a giant one, it's a heavy base. So I have built up a profile of how the bases should work. Let's have a look. I actually want the layer height to be somewhere around 0.1. So I put between 0.2 and, where are we? Down at the bottom somewhere. Enable adaptive layers. Maximum variation. So maximum variation 0.13 means it's going between 0.07 and 0.2, which is lovely. Interestingly, the step size works better if it doesn't exactly fit. Don't know why. You get quicker prints that look ideal. I've got various fixes in here. All sorts of stuff to do with trying to get good quality on a tiny basic printer. Apparently it's quite a good printer, a Elegoo Neptune, but it's a dual-headed printer. I wanted to look into dual-headed printing. I am not impressed. I was hoping to create 3D models that actually are multicolour. Instead, what I have done is run two separate spools doing two separate colours of model. I'm not sure I'm going to invest in one of those fancy triple head printers. because the technology looks great, but it's not ready yet. Anyway, let's see how this goes. So here's my basic 50mm base, except that it's not. It's a basic however many mil. I like the updates in Cura 5. I like the fact that it's done stuff like this where you can actually now get fat and thin, deliberately fat and thin threads going in it. I like the fact that supports work nicely around the outside like this. Not sure how useful that bottom being like that is. It's probably not at all, in fact, although that's quite a good profile. I best change it for this. Bottoms. Bottom thickness, bottom layers, bottom pattern. There we go. I don't want lines. I don't want concentric. I actually want zigzag. Well, maybe lines and zigzag, like that. Next thing, I'm on prep. Don't want to be on prep. I need to scale this up. Why is it that there's a 0.0003 difference? It's 40mm. You're wrong. Anyway, it's now going to be 50mm. Don't want to scale up the side. I want to keep it at 3.8. I don't know why Microsoft. I don't know why Warhammer do 3.8mm bases. I've never got a micrometer on it, but judging it by eye, base to base, next to each other, that's what they do. I'm pretty sure it's not 3.75 either. It didn't look right. So there we go, 150mm round base. 35-minute print. Got the Warhammer logo in. Let's have a look at the preview. Stop saying Warhammer, Plonker. It's got the Warfigure logo in. That's interesting. Why has it done that? How funny. Okay. You've got a thin bit. See yourself. That looks pretty good. Not sure about that, but fair enough. We're on layer 1, layer 2, nice. Good. It looks like they overlap nicely, so I'll get a nice strong layer, base layer. Looks like the supports do their job correctly. One of the reasons I extruded down this image is because I needed support under here, and everybody knows you want a dip in the base or some kind of thing. It would have been easy to print it as just a complete shape. How awful would that be? Who wants that? I don't. Right, and concentric on the top, fantastic. Let's save that. Media. Good, I think I'm currently using. Yes. 1 times 50mm. Should I do a couple of bases? 35 minutes. Only if somebody orders a few. Right, brilliant. I will go and set that running in just a sec, but we don't need that. Next job. Yeah. One of my friends who comes into the shop run a toy store. It's very small. It's part of something else. It's more of a counter, but as part of it, we actually deal with legitimate toy orders and miniatures and things like that, buying from large brand name companies and selling on. But they want something for LARP. What they wanted was a scorpion. We can't get scorpion models easily anymore, so they're looking at possibly having something resin. This fits the bill ideally. It's scorpion-ish. Unfortunately, it's really delicate. I tried printing it on FDM, and let me show you how delicate it actually is. I printed this, which was an attempt to get around the fact that it's really delicate. I thought if I print it, I happened to go from black to white, which is what you can see here. But I thought if I printed like a sliced off version, then I could check how well the resolution works. Not very well, as it turns out. Not very well at all. I also thought it might be quite good to see how the internals work. Triangular supports inside especially works really nicely. The problem is the whole thing doesn't damn well stick. You want it to print flat to the plate. You want it to be able to be stuck together later, but that is pretty awful, and it's not good enough for this kind of thing. So next job, here we go. Having tried it in FDM, which would have been ideal, cheap, simple, occasion. When it's thick, when it's about 30, not even, when it's about 10 mil thick and up, PLA Plus is fantastic. It's really tough. I'm currently pinging the like the crab carapace thing. But as soon as you get spindly, it's no good whatsoever. So, time for a different kind of 3D printing. Need resin, clay cyanide, you are too prolific. Arabian, sandwalker. Tempting. Let's see if I can print it in a one shot. Oh, I don't think I want to do that. I'm loading a file pointlessly now. It's big. It's beautiful. One of the things I love about clay cyanide is the sheer amount of detail you get. The problem is that you have to do it in resin, really. FDM just doesn't cope with it. And Signor Clay, I'm sure that's not his name. I've forgotten what his name is. He's Italian anyway. I don't know why I call him Signor Clay, but he has attempted to do split files. Actually, what I might do is try and download the files. Let's have a look. If I let's go here. Let's download the supported version. I don't know how Lychee is going to cope with this. I imagine it's done in Lychee. What did I download last time? Yeah, I did it all as unsupported. I'm not going to sit and wait for an hour while that downloads. That seems a bit much. 2 hours? Really? Oh yeah, it always starts large, doesn't it? So that's gone from 1 to 2 hours to 32 minutes. I don't think it's worth sitting and watching. Okay, let's go back to this. If my attempts fail, I might use the pre-supported one. Right, Sunwalker tail. I've already added files to this in order to make it work for FDM printing, which doesn't work, therefore was failure. I tried chopping the tail in various directions to get the spikes to come up. I think my best bet is to do something like that. Maybe like that. I want that spike at least horizontal, that tail spike. That's the most important one. It's a shame you can't kind of get a horizontal line and just put it on and do it that way. That looks pretty good. I've got one that's a bit dodgy down here that will need supporting. Three mil should do. Bit of gap. Stick some supports in. If I support it enough, that'll be fine. Let's open the next one. No, I don't want a recent file, and I clicked the wrong thing. Body. One of the things I noticed when I tried FDM printing the whole thing in one go was that although I had joined and merged the body and the base, which should have worked perfectly in theory, in practice it did not at all. There was enough of a gap between the base, or the body bit here, and the tail, that despite them being merged STLs, merged 3D files, it just didn't connect. They snapped off. That looks pretty good. The spikes are up. It's only those there that aren't properly pointing up. And these down here, they're going to be a problem. Sometimes I feel like Marge Simpson. I definitely don't want to do that. I certainly don't want to... Ooh, no. Whatever I print on the bottom is going to lose the fidelity. So ideally, I want it to be that bit there and work around these. Not going to lose any time because of this by having these higher, although I could potentially lower this. Let's have a look. So if I do something more like that, that will save hours of printing time. Also, I could do it more like that, saving even more hours of printing time, hours and hours. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Goes to horizontal. Now let's look at this one. Let's save some printing time while also making sure that his tentacle faces, Zoidberg tentacle face, has no problems and doesn't stick down. I want a range because otherwise you shove it through the floor by accident if you're not careful. Probably want to arrange it on the plate so that the two things are vaguely out of each other's way. There we go. That's pretty good. I like the way that on lychee the shadow is actually where it vertically lies on the plate. That's always cool. Okay, right. Let's select everything and stop. Why is it on heavy? Gotta be light, man. We don't do heavy. Yes, I know what it is you say that you'll do, just do it. Okay. Let's see if lychee it has stayed out of its own way. Fantastic. Next, let's pick some heavies. I want to get in there. That one in particular, somewhere there, bit there, maybe there. A ridiculous amount of supports where you're not going to notice that it's got dimples. Part of the anchor process. You anchor. Right. Good. They're all hidden. This is good news. I'm going to go for a medium there and a couple of other spots. So one of the things I like about the way lychee works is, as you can see here, where that white band is, it's showing me where the lowest point, in other words the edge or the lip of this is. I don't really want to do dimples all around the lip, but at the same time it's going to need some support. So I'm going to go slightly in the lip here. That one can be light. But this one needs to be medium. I'll do more lights and things now. I'm just doing the anchors. Get your anchors, sort your anchors out. Yeah, you're definitely going to need a few on here. Hide the dimples wherever possible. Because when you rip these anchors off, they're going to leave big dimples. 0.3 mil wide. Leaves a noticeable dent. Even though it's set to be a hideously tiny impact, it still leaves a big dent. So what I'm going to do later is, having set up my anchors and things, I'm going to combine the supports as much as possible, as much as the program will allow, and then add in a load more and do the same again. Is there anything sticky uppy? Yeah, that whole tail section. It needs bigger anchors all the way around. Okay, mediums might not cut it. Is there anywhere I can put a large? Heavy, man. Okay, no, not easily. There, maybe. Heaven is my brother. Oh, the things we do to amuse ourselves. Right, heavy, heavy, heavy. Now, if I plonk it on there, is that going to rip? Get rid of this and plonk it in there. And in. Come on. You know you want to. Why won't you go in there? That's just annoying. Okay, mediums. Make that medium, make that medium, make that medium, make mine a medium. Why is it a 3D support algorithmic program like this can be so intelligent and at the same time can forget the fact that humans can see dimples when you leave them? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, that's that one. What about Mr. Crab Face? These heavy supports, the anchors down here, will work fine for that bit. I think I'm going to need some mediums on the legs, so let's go. Medium. In there. Difficult to find spots to hide it. I want to camouflage the dimples. That's not bad. Sadly, with 3D printing, every single one. There we go. Did I already do this one? I can't remember now. Every single one is noticeably making a difference. You leave one dimple on show and can ruin a whole model. Yeah, I did. I put you in there. I'm not sure that's correct. Let's put you over there. That's not correct either. You need to go in. You're doing that without ruining. No, you're ruining the model. Don't go over there. Go over here. Okay. Stop ruining my models. Better. You should be medium. As should you. That's going to leave a show, a towel, a dimple, a mark. Get in there, underclaw. Look at that. Right. Excellent. I like what you're doing. Good job. More of that. One in there. Yes. Little victories. Elbows. Can you get one in the elbow? In the funny bone. Come on. Somewhere around here. There's no obvious natural single dent. It's going to leave a mark and it'll look. It's going to look too man-made, so I need to adjust it. No, that fat on move. I know I'm in advanced mode, that's why I went in it. Like that. Quite. Down. There. Because what I don't want is for that lip there to be too obviously a man-made groove. Right, where did we get to? Crab claw number 1. Crab claw number 2. Not obvious. Ah, there's a half decent spot. There's medium number 1. Number 2. Oh, I'd like to go in there, but that's not good for the model. That'll work. Yeah, I don't want to put any anywhere else. It'd be too obvious. You need, right on the tip here, a light one, and you're going to need some others too while we're at it. Better. Good. Get rid of this one. I'm sure I need it. No, you've gone to the wrong point entirely. There. No, you've done it again. It's an optical illusion. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, now where do we get to? Mediums on spindly legs. Not supportive enough. Let's stick a dent in there. There. I can file that down if need be. And then. One. Two. 3. I was telling a friend recently, I once watched, as an adult, the counting down from a rocket launch, and he counted all the way to 0, pressed the button, nothing happened, and whoever he was with said, "It's a disaster." "No," he said, "this is great, I get to count back up again." To this day, I am not sure whether that is genius or awful. Better. I like to give them a little bit of space, because when I've got a flat plate that's a magnetic plate that I print them onto, and when I don't like to lift the plate off, despite the fact that it's magnetic, easy bend plate. I still use a scraper. It's a lot easier to scrape them one at a time off. It's also a lot easier to pre-rinse them with ISO and pop them into the whizzy machine that washes them. The whizzy washer, I suppose. Right, that's... Why do you never make enough main tree trunks and always leave too many would-be branches as trunks for themselves? This is ridiculous. Out of however many supports there are there, probably 150, I'd have made 10 trees with 150 branches, not 100 trees. Your algorithms are wrong. Right, anyway, so we've done basic supports, anchors. Let's check for islands. Before I do, good. Nothing too close. It's a shame I can't print it with the eyes on top, because this top-down view gives you the most accurate representation of how it's going to look, because that's what the printer gives the best resolution at. I find it odd, actually. It should be an XY resolution of half a mil, 0.5. Is it half a mil? 0.05. It's actually 0.03 when you do some... ooh, I thought we added supports. Okay. When you do all the different optimizations, especially when... Have you islanded everything? I bet you haven't. I bet you've only islanded the tail. Yeah, so when you do AA in particular, it makes the resolution better. That's the whole point. But in terms of actual printing, the results are stunning. Use lychee, if for nothing else, for 16 times AA. Right, we done? $367. I just... Okay, we done it? Okay, 22 you can't support. I don't care. Go on, make them tree trunks. Thank you very much. Right. So everything but hold control. Everything but these. Do that. I want to unclick them. Is there an invert? Supports selection. Ooh. I'm not sure it's helpful, because now that you've decided that that's a heavy, you no longer count it as a light, which is a shame because it needs to be a light. So what I'm going to have to do is I want everything on the arms be light. All of that, all of that to be light. And those legs, them legs, that leg, on that one included. And on here, this should be a little easier. All of this and this. And you've ruined your mediums, haven't you? You have totally ruined your mediums. Let's try parenting everything again and see if it automatically puts stuff back as it should be, roughly. It's not bad. Right. Now, according to Lychee, that'll print. It is, of course, wrong. That won't print properly. That'll be awful. I've got anchors. I've got a mixture of different types of support, lights and mediums and heavies and things. But undersides don't print unless they're supported 100%. So even when somebody does professional support generation and stuff, it's just wrong. What I need to do now is get around the underside and add in all the supports that you're going to need. So I'm on light, good, ting, 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 ting. I'm saving some, but not many, for specialists stuff. So what I'm going to do is once I put in these basics and recalculated how to support everything again, I want just a few, especially on the curvy bits and especially on the heavy resin parts, to be left for me to do manually. So one like that, for instance, and some under here. The reason I want to do that is I want to create crisscrosses where the support beam itself comes across. So instead of all these verticals, I want some horizontal beams. I want that so that when it prints and leaves a gap, it works out to what's the way of putting it? To actually print and doesn't kind of end up with just random blobs printed in the middle of space somewhere. And for some reason, having a support underneath it a few mil away makes a load of difference, and it will do that. It'll work out that it's not printing in space. And the other thing is you can't get the angle unless you do that kind of parented tree branch stuff. But if you let the machine do all of this, it just prints too many. It's ridiculous. Look at this. It's nuts. If I had time, I would manually go through and chop half of these down. But I don't have time, so I won't. So sadly, I'm going to have a huge, horrific and unwieldy support base. What I am going to do is reinforce the supports using the branches that I make so that not only does it print as it should, but with a minimal amount of extra resin, it prints perfectly underneath as well. One of the good points and the bad points about resin printing is when you get big chunks like that of supports all clumped together, they basically merge into each other. The good point about it is when you rip them off, if you've done it well and you've left enough of a gap between the various supports, all the supports pull each other off at the same time, leaving a lovely pristine model. The bad part is if you're too close with the clump, then the clump rips the model. You've got to get it just right, or at least within certain tolerances, which is what I'm trying to do here. It's far too clumpy down the bottom. But I haven't got time to fix the machine's bad clumpy support. I mean, look at that. Why one branch, one tree, one main stem would have done it. Didn't need all of that. That is an overhang in the middle of nowhere, despite the fact that we did several runs at trying to make no overhangs. There's some more overhangs in the middle of nowhere. And another. This is particularly bad when you get these spiky bits. I'm going to need to see what I'm doing here. He said blocking his own view. Okay, come back to me, spiky bit. There you go. Let's try tips and bases. I'll put something in there and then do it coming over that way. No. You can tell when the angle hasn't worked because it goes red. It is clearly sticking something through there. Now there we go. There's a small window where you'll do it. Cool. That is not supported enough. That won't print, not like that. Why the machine doesn't know that? I don't know. I know that. You should know that. Stupid machine. This is why you get an artist to do a machine's job. Or an engineer. One day AI will be clever enough to do this for you. At which point, hopefully, it won't be demanding high pay, because if it does, you're better off doing it yourself anyway. Still, if Mr. Data will work for pennies, this is a job for him. There's some crackers. Right, I want to get from there build my curve. Now let's see what that looks like. Yeah, you can't get the angle on the head unless you do that kind of thing. It's fine when they're verticals. It's not fine at all when you have to go around corners. So even though Lychee and the others, Shi2box and everything else, will let you pick a spot where you can place a support, because you want 90 degrees from what you're supporting, and in my case because I want an interwoven web of supports that rip off easily all at the same time and still support every vertical drop nicely, this is well worth putting the time and effort on. Hopefully if I do it well enough, I only have to do it once. Sometimes I have to fix my own mistakes, but most of the time measuring twice, cutting once works. Stop with the pauses, Cunnington. Every time you pause, it's awful. Right. I'm doing a mixture of putting in supports on spikes on prominent bits and putting in supports to hold actual, stop that, to hold actual lumpy bumpy bits and underneathy bits where otherwise the it would just try and print in midair and it would look awful. So here's a beautiful example of printing in midair. I don't want you to print that in midair, I want you to support it, print the end of the tentacle or the spike or whatever it is, do it on the way through, and for the supports to just rip off at the end, please. Think you could do that? I reckon you can with a bit of encouragement. There we go, looking good. I use ridiculously fine supports after seeing an American do precisely that. I thought it was impossible to print supports that end with a 0.15mm interface, especially ones that have that are deliberately designed to dig in the least amount whatsoever, which I've set up in the settings. But actually, providing you put enough of them in and in the right places, it works. It doesn't just work a little, it works really well. I mean, sometimes you have to manually override supports, that's what all the heavies and the anchors and stuff like that's about, mediums. But these light supports are so light that you can't tell. So largely I feel okay just splatting them all over. However, if one goes wrong and shows, then it can ruin a model. So although I splattergun loads of supports on, I also have in mind that at some point I'm going to get it wrong, everybody does, and that will be horrendous. Because one little dimple can ruin the model. And sure, you can fix it afterwards, you can get out the files and try and blend it in, but if it's an organic looking model like this, it's better. On some of them with armour and things, it's horrendous. You have to take a chunk out of it just to make it look less terribly ruined. From my point of view, because I sell these commercially, if you're going to sell it commercially, you print what you are given. You do not print some approximation, which means you make a mistake, you go back and do it again. That's why I get 5-star reviews on Etsy, I think. I blooming hope so. I put a lot of effort in to do it that way. It should be why I get 5-star reviews on Etsy. If people are just overly generous, well, it's a load of wasted effort on my part, but I hope not. I put this much effort into a model that might not actually sell, because I put this much effort into every model. It means if you buy something trivially small off me, you're getting a great deal, because my time is valuable. But it also means if you buy something that I sold 100 of, or 1,000 of, or whatever, you are getting the same deal as everyone else. You're getting the same effort and input. And everything, absolutely everything, is bespoke like this. Because computers don't do it justice. So it's down to the integrity of the person. I'm hoping it's not just going to be me who does this, that there's going to be loads of us all working on similar projects. Right now, it's just me. But yeah, I set it up as a limited company to do that. That and, you know, avoid having my house taken off me for some form of scurrilous IP infringement case. Because I know that despite the fact that we're dealing with 1950s tropes of dragons and demons and orcs and dwarves and whatnot, in space or otherwise, that there's certain things you can't say and certain things you can't do and certain things that you can't print or play with because other people think they own the idea, which they don't, or they in some cases kind of do because they bought it somehow. Fortunately, that doesn't happen in publication terms in print, but unfortunately it does in miniatures, which is a shame because it's going to stifle the industry. Anyway, right, tips. Let's have a look. Spent more than enough time doing all the cool, organic, curvy bits. Let's see if I missed a load. Yeah, there. 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 One little support there. He's wafer thin. I don't want his head to sag, not at that point. Okay, looking good. That's not got a lot of support, nor has any of that. The other thing I found with clay cyanide in particular is they are prolific. It's great, but I'm currently running, having tried to keep up for some time, I stopped for a short while and I'm now something ridiculous like a year behind on the models. There's no point keeping up. I don't want to be doing this for new models all the time, so I will eventually get round to doing this with the entire catalogue. At some point though, what I want to do is investigate whether or not the pre-supported version could be more easily used as a basis for a bespoke support setup like this. Because if it can, then only half the work that I'm doing at the moment need be involved. But I've looked at all the pre-supported versions of all the major miniature makers, and they're all not good enough. Some have some merit, but most have little merit. The most recent clay cyanide ones look pretty good. They're built for enthusiasts to print with minor amounts of dimplage, and they support in a relatively clever way. But they don't do this. Nobody does this. Nobody but me. More's the pity. I don't want to be doing this all my life. Everybody else should be doing this, and this should be how the computer does it. That's kind of the point. Ooh, you parented one thing there. Well done. Yeah, I've got to do the same on here. Okay. Bung the supports in, create the right angle, connect the supports so they revolve properly, and do it vertically underneath so that the resin somehow knows it's too close, isn't it? No, that works. Not to print in midair. I still don't understand why printing over a support body means that there's a better chance of it not just dropping, because surely it would drop on the support body thing. No, it's already printed at some point underneath. Somehow the gap helps. Maybe it's to do with, I don't know, air resistance or something. It's really odd though. There are some really odd physical phenomena, to be fair. If you boil a full kettle, it boils quicker than if you boil 2 half kettles. That's a well tried and tested phenomenon. That always works. They call it inertia of momentum of inertia or something, but it basically means that to heat a whole thing is quicker than to heat 2 half of things. Why that works? Nobody knows, but it's well documented physics. So in terms of practical maths, it's a thing. Physicians will tell you that physics is the thing that mathematicians are doing when they do maths. Mathematicians will set you right and tell you that actually maths is the theory and the practice, not just the practice. As far as we're concerned, they're just practical mathematicians. Unfortunately, I told my daughter that, and she's now made that point to her physics teacher, who is trying to tell her otherwise. Sadly for the physics teacher, it's not working. I suspect it's not working because it's not true, but you know, if the physics teacher can make it true somehow, then best of luck to them. Physics is just practical maths. Like this. Which is why it's so depressing for me that the computer doesn't know how to do this. It's just maths. It's simple. All of these dangly bits will be lost because they all face vertically down and they all don't have support. Give them support. It's unbelievably not tricky. You even know when the support is needed. You've coloured it yellow for me. So why am I the one doing clicky clicky? Useless. Your algorithms are useless. At some point, I've got some kind of thing where, because of my subscription to Lychee, I can talk to them about this. To be honest, I might just send them this video. There's a few other things they do that are poorly thought out, which is a shame given how capable this software is. Like there's a setting for the trees so that you can tell the trees to go thicker or thinner, which I must set better. However, what you can't do is tell the trees to use more branches and less stems, which would have been blooming useful. Right, that will now print correctly. This one could probably do with a bit of help. That won't print correctly. It will just fall in midair. That will now print correctly. That's a bit where it would fall down. Do you know how I can tell? I can see it. That. These gaps need a bit of support. Look for the spikes. These spikes need their tips supported. I'm sure there's a rude joke, male member joke there somewhere, but I don't want to chase it or even think about it actually at the moment. Unusual. It's a late Sunday, that's fine. Right. Oh, missed. Come back. Hopefully, if this works well, not only will it print perfectly, but the person I'm printing it for will be none the wiser for all the effort that's gone into this. They'll just think that's good, but they won't know how good or why. Because if you do anything gloriously well, the effort that went into making it look slick and smooth shouldn't show. Right, show me the tips. Let's have a look. Oh, there's a knobble, an unsupported knobble, a ridge, and a gap, and a ridge. Ooh, is that ridges? There's a white line there that tells me that there's a stem to which I want to attach. However, it won't let me attach to it when it's only showing it as a white line. Fix it, Lychee. You know where there's a stem. I want to put the branch fixed to that stem. I don't want to have to look at the whole branch. I want to look at the tips. If you could fix that, then I wouldn't have to switch between different types. I would just permanently look tips only. Talking of tips, get that. Okay, and I've missed a few sticky out knobbly bits. Let's have a look from underneath. There's a gap. There's a gap. If I plug too, oh, there's where I was looking earlier. If I plug too many gaps, I am going to ruin it because the weight of the support struts will create clumps that rip the actual model. If I leave the gaps too big, I'm going to ruin it because the underneath of the model will not print correctly. And all of this glorious detail will be lost. Ridge, ridge. Move. Too far. Move back. Okay. Select everything. Parent again. Check proximity. Anytime. Ah, there we go. Is it me or the parenting? I'm guessing it's bad parenting. I always blame bad parenting. As it happens, doing this sort of thing, and better yet when it actually doing this sort of thing, actively helps the supports to support. I suppose it helps the stability. Triangles are the mathematically best support mechanism. So not only do I want everything on the build plate to be connected all together like this so that supports rip all at the same time and rip each other, but I want a few triangles connecting all these verticals, because if we can get some of this kind of stuff, then there's no need to add in, what do they call it, bracings. They'll brace each other. Same over here. Okay, light doesn't fix it. Grab it, pull it. This could be a tricky one. Right there. That's better. What is going on there? I'm not quite sure why, when it parents, it does not actually calculate this kind of thing and just automatically take account of it and not get in its own way. Seems to me one of those things that it ought to do, but it doesn't. Many's the time I've run auto parenting and then realised afterwards that actually the parenting itself has actually mucked up the product. Bad parenting ruins the output. That one. And unlike when it does the, I don't know what you call it, the kind of the island spotting, it doesn't seem to do parenting spotting. Right, have I ruined anything by getting rid of 2 or 3 badly parented things? No. That does not look well supported enough on there. And it isn't. Come on. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Oh, for goodness sake. Come on, you can do it. One in there. One in there. Like that. Any other nobbles and bobbles? Okay. I do like this micro support that Lychee does. I think it's invaluable. Unfortunately, I have found it's just as easy for me to do that, and although it wastes a little more resin on supports, they tend to be that much stronger and more worthwhile, especially at that ridiculously light setting. Here we go. Last time proximity, run, 0. Do it for everything, good. AA, standard is good. 60% grey offset because it's, well, because it's better. Doesn't seem to work nicely, even though it doesn't AA the supports, if you don't do that. Does that look stupid? A little bit. A couple of supports are in funny places. The bases all connect though, so I don't need to put in a raft. The support structure looks pretty busy, but it's chunky on the bottom, which is what I want. That's where I want the clumps to hold the pressure of each other together. That I'm not sure of. Now it's good. Right. Oh, it's pretty close to the edge of the plate. Cancel that. Yeah, it's ridiculously close to the top edge, but not to the bottom. That one's fine, it's just the tail. That's better. No, I want the... Yeah, ideally, I want the tallest thing to be the last thing printed in the centre of the build plate. Because then, if it builds the tallest thing in the centre, it's more accurate than if it builds it off on the edge here, because it'll pull. If I show you the simulation as it builds and builds and builds, This at the moment is fine. But this point here, there's a lot of pressure on here being pulled on the build plate. But then again, there's a load of pressure here as well. So it's not too bad. When there's just one thing left, these are the points of pressure. The tail might try and pull it sideways a bit. I don't have a lot of choice about that. It has to fit there. Ah, beautiful. And that's what it will look like as it pulls up through the resin. And it looks like... No! Have I gone over the edge? I have. That's ridiculous. I just moved you that way. Oh yeah, and then I took it out of the way so that the two things wouldn't connect. Door. That's better. Let's try that. It's good. Lots of gap between the edges. Relatively unbiased left and right. My build plate's got a single connector and a single rail, so although the pressure shouldn't be too bad, although it's built for it, I don't want to pull the whole thing sideways, especially not mid-build. Because the other thing I've seen happen is if you don't expose it long enough, the actual resin itself will start to edge one way or the other. So this is a bit lopsided to the right, but actually this smattering of supports, it's holding it fairly equal, but that's moving up in towards the centre as time goes on, keeping a nice balance. The leverage of this bit is keeping that in check from moving anything too wobbly sideways. That works nicely. I'm pleased with that. See this kind of blurry, cornery effect that the AA has created. Like I say, the actual resolution when we worked it out, or when I worked it out, it's 0.05 mil. It's 0.03 in reality because of this AA effect all the way through. Which means that even under a microscope, even if you've got like jeweler's glasses, it's smooth. It's gorgeous. That's why we do resin printing. Did I choose a nice mixed grey profile? I think I did. If I chose the right profile, mixed grey, then I can add toughener and strengthener to the mix and it's fine. The exposure settings are long enough. Pretty sure I did. Look at that, that's almost central. Six-hour build. These estimates are fairly accurate. It's probably 6.5 hours, which is fine. Mixed basic grain, yeah. It's on the profile. I have it at 25 nanometers layer thickness, 2.8 seconds exposure. I've upped the lift distance slightly from the regular, and I've lowered the lift speed, and I've upped the retract speed, because retract is actually the drop speed. So this is how I do it. I'm keeping it on autumn. I've kept it for ages on the autumn setting, because in autumn that's what I needed. But I did have to bring the machine indoors, because in winter the temperature variations are just too much, and it won't print nicely at in winter. Yeah, that's good. End of. Save and quit. Right, there was something else I was going to do, but it's getting late, so I'm not going to do it. Hopefully I've downloaded that by now. I think I have. Yes, I have. At some point I'll look at the pre-supports. For now, that is it. Hopefully, if you Creoles, hopefully if you like 3D prep stuff on YouTube, you'll catch this again. If you're a 3D printer yourself, there's things in there that ring true. If there are things that are definitely false, drop me a line, chat or something, and tell me. I'm hoping it's helpful. At worst, I'm hoping it's interesting. Thank you very much. See you later.